Welcome to this week's tarot reading. Also, welcome to February 1st. This will be the first reading that we have for this month. And I'm continuing to kind of play around with the readings, creating readings. I want to kind of be able to play around here and give you examples of how you could take maybe themes or how you could play differently with the cards when you're looking for inspiration and for guidance. I had a couple of ideas of what I was going to do today, and I ended up landing on doing a chakra spread. Now, what I wanted to do with this one is I wanted to use it as more of a way of like building meaning from one card to the next. And so we will be doing a 7 card spread. The intention that I have for this one to kind of show you how you can play with this. This is the second chakra spread I think I've done. I will put the link in the bottom to the other one, just so you can kind of see different ways that you can play with a theme. And I believe that's the theme that sitting here thinking, I think that's the theme I'm going to play with. So every spread this month is going to be a 7 card chakra spread, but we're going to look at how you can use this theme to get different meanings. It's the same thing with just how you can tweak and rework a question can give you a lot of different information. It can open up a lot of different pathways. Now, the intent for this particular reading is to build a pathway to alignment by connecting to our energy centers. And when I was putting this together, I was thinking, well, sometimes we think of one area and we forget the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to build from the bottom up, and we're going to really kind of deep dive a little bit into how we can build on the chakras to be able to help give us better clarity and more guidance. And then the question that I kind of honed it into is, what steps can we take to bring us into greater alignment with our true self and inner power? I feel that's a theme that I've been working on recently, and so I thought it would be really interesting to bring this in. And what I've done for the positions for each of the cards is I've started with the beginning question of how can we, and then fill in the rest based on which chakra we are dealing with. And I also have included here as we go through, I have the rights for the chakras. So we're going to kind of look at that as also kind of a bit of a different lens to put them through. So we're shuffling the cards and we're shuffling in what steps can we take to bring us into greater alignment with our true self and inner power. And so we're going to shuffle that. I just want to mention also that today is the full moon, so it's going to have a little bit of extra oomphy power, I believe, to these cards. All right, so we'll pick our cards. And 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Our first card is the root chakra. It is the base, it is the foundation. And the question that we're asking is, how can we build safety and security? A lot of times, if we don't feel safe, if we don't feel secure, nothing will stick. We can try to have these big, lofty dreams. We can try to get our message across. But if we don't feel safe, if we don't feel secure, then our message will carry that vibration along with it. And so if we're looking on, aligning with our true self and our inner power, there's probably something within us that's saying it's not safe to be us. And so I'm going to connect right away to the rights of the root chakra is the right to be and to have. And so we have the right to be, we have the right to take up space. And so what's going to help us to build safety and security in this? And here we have the Six of Swords. Now, the Six of Swords, interestingly enough, is an air card. And I always found it interesting that you have this air card where she's traveling over water. But the swords are coming out, and it's also one of those things of, is she navigating through a dangerous territory? And the swords act almost like those warning buoys. Or is it one of those things where if she gets too close, they just kind of dot out? And so you're constantly in this low sense of stress. And when we're looking at how we can build safety and security, I think one of the things is as we're looking to move toward whatever it is that we want to do, as we're looking to leave old patterns, leave old beliefs, it's almost like we're walking over a landmine field because maybe we don't know who we can trust. We don't know what we can say. We don't know where we can go, where there isn't something that's just going to explode up and terrify us or cause some damage. And so when you look at her, she's kind of like stone-faced, but at the same time, she has the companion of the cat and the owl. So there is this sense, and there's a raven up at the top that's holding the lantern. So there's this sense that there's something in the unknown that's guiding you. And so even if we feel insecure, if we feel threatened, we need to know that there's something in the darkness, even if it's in the darkness of our heart, like the intuition that we've hidden so far deep down. It's important for us to remember that something is going to guide us, something's going to move us through these rocky shores and guide us into open water where it will be safer for us to, calm down and de-stress. But the most important thing for us to remember is that, like we have the right to be here. And so if there are things that are threatening us, we have the right to ask for help. We have the right to seek support. We have the right to do what we need to do in order to get ourselves safe. And, that could be reaching out to someone that you can trust. It can be seeking advice from lawyers, from doctors, from whoever it is that's there that's going to help you to find ways that you can be safe. And right now, the world really does feel crazy. And a lot of us don't feel safe because nobody knows what's coming. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows where we're going. And I think this is a really good indication. The Six of Swords is this push to say we have to get out of this situation. We've outgrown it. It's not healthy. It's toxic. There's all kinds of booby traps and triggers. And I think that that's kind of what this also indicates is that there's something out there that wants to keep us here because when we are stuck in this place and our nervous system is going haywire, we're easily controlled. So whether it be by, the social environment that we're in, whether it be by relationships, whether it be our job or whatever, if we're afraid and we're worried about our safety, we're living in survival and we're easier to control. And so the first thing that we need to do if we're going to get in alignment is to find out where fear is keeping us from being safe and solid on our own 2 feet. And it might take a while before we can actually take action, but the important thing about the root chakra is that we're building a foundation. And sometimes that foundation, if you think about trees, the roots are underneath the ground, they're not seen yet. And so we might have to do our own safety and our own security work in the shadows, behind the scenes, where other people can't see until we have created a safe and sturdy and stable foundation that we know will support us when we move forward. Next, we move to the sacral, and this one asks, how can we create more opportunities for passion and pleasure? Because the right of the sacral chakra is to feel and to experience pleasure. It's an embodiment in this one. It's a creative powerhouse, really is also what it is. And so we're looking how can we create more opportunities for passion and pleasure? And the important thing is, first we have to do this. First, we have to feel safe because if we're not feeling safe, our nervous system is going to be on high alert and we do not sit in the body. And so we're looking to see how can we create this safety so that then we can open up opportunities for creativity, for pleasure, for passion. And here we have the High Priestess. And I think this is a beautiful card to have in here because creativity is all about following the flow of intuition and allowing ourselves to really step into the power of creativity without explanation. Because a lot of times when you think about intuition and when you think about all of the gut feelings and all the things that we experience and we go through where people say, well, how do you know that? And we're like, who knows, right? Like we have no answer for that. It's very much, the high priestess is also that kind of, oh, I'm thinking of a friend, and the next thing you know, that person's calling you, and there was nothing really that prompted it. Or, you're thinking of a friend and you reach out to them and you find out that there was something going on, or they were thinking of you. And so for us to be able to open up opportunities for this, joy, this passion, this pleasure, this creativity, we have to be able to trust that the opportunities that come to us, even if we don't understand them, maybe they're meant for us to follow and to pay attention to. Because if something comes to you, if it becomes part of your awareness, then there is a message or a medicine or a something there that is going to help you open up to this embodiment of pleasure, this embodiment of creativity. And I think one of the other things about the High Priestess being a major arcana card, it's saying that this is going to be a place of really big push towards that alignment that we're looking for and being able to really connect to our inner power. And it's a place of feeling into it, right? Like when we're talking about, how can I open up opportunities to feel pleasure and to experience pleasure? It's going to be a lot about learning how to trust. And so this safety that we're getting, the farther that we get away from the sources of our insecurity and our danger, the more we'll be able to start to feel into those subtle hints, those subtle moments where we can feel that sacral energy coming in and saying, this is an opportunity for you to follow. You're going to be really excited and you're going to be really happy with what happens here. And so, that's going to be a very big life lesson when you're looking at connecting and going up this ladder. Next, we move into the solar plexus, which is the source of ego, right? Like the solar plexus, to me, that's where your self-esteem lives. That's where all of this idea of who you are and your self-confidence. And so we're asking, how can we rebuild our self-esteem? And the solar plexus has the right to act and define themselves, right? So this is the place where we can define who we are. If we're feeling insecure, if we're feeling that we're in danger, then we will mask and we will be whoever the people around us that we feel insecure around want us to be. We're going to shut down our creative ideas. We're going to follow the path that other people want. And so now we need to find, so if we can find that place of safety where we can let the masks go and we can be ourselves in safety and we can follow our intuition and we can open up to passion and creativity that is ours and uniquely ours. Now we're starting to define who we are. And so once we've done that, then we open up to the Three of Swords. And the best way for us to rebuild our sense of self-esteem, our sense of value, our sense of worth is to give ourselves space and time to grieve and to let go of everything that keeps coming up to hurt us. We can't build healthy self-esteem on all the stories where we play and we throw at ourselves and we beat ourselves up about where we let ourselves down, where we screwed up, where we made mistakes, where we had something go wrong. And sometimes too, this is grieving is also about the loss of people around us, right? Like grief can have a profound weight on how we see ourselves, on how we value ourselves. And so it's important for us to remember that when we're looking to define who we are, we have to be able to grieve who we're letting go of. Because sometimes, if we don't know who we are and we have no definition of ourselves, then we end up stepping into identities. And the only way that we can be authentically us and authentically aligned with ourselves is by letting go of those identities. And that requires, a grieving period. Because when you let go of an identity, then a lot of times you have no idea who you are, what you have left with you. And I'll always remember when I ended up in an accident that took me out of teaching. I had my whole identity was a teacher. And when I couldn't have that identity anymore, I didn't know who I was. And I remember telling my therapist when we started working together, I said, I have no idea who I am outside of that because I define myself based on an identity, not based on who I was as a person, right? Because if you know who you are as a person, then you can be anything, you can be anywhere without having that identity define you. And so that's where we're at here is for you, for all of us to be able to really step into our self-esteem. We have to let go of the masks, we have to let go of the identities, but we have to grieve because it's going to be very painful and it's going to be very upsetting to the nervous system to do that, which is why we have to go back to leaving the places that keep us from feeling safe and secure. Because the more we feel safe and secure, the more we will give ourselves the time and the space to grieve without falling back into those identities. Then we move up to the heart. Again, the heart is the center of all of them because it is the fourth card. So it's got three above, three below. And it is the place, obviously, of the heart. It's the place of compassion. It's a place of relationships and connections. And so here we have how can we open up to give and receive kindness and compassion? And that ties really nicely into the right to love and be loved. And it's important for us to remember that love is everywhere. It's universal. It's what spirit is designed to do, is to love and to love without definition. And so if you think about it, right, that's another source of grief is that if we allow conditioning to define who we can love and who we can't love, we also have to let that go as well, right? There's a lot of conditioning that's going to be like knives in the skin, and it's going to be really difficult and challenging to really let it go. And only through grieving and going through the whole process of grieving can you really understand what grief is in what the role of grief is in your life and how it's allowing you to really process everything that's going on, everything that is brewing around inside of you so that you can integrate it and integrate the qualities of it, integrate the positives of it so that you move forward as instead of just leaving everything behind, you've integrated and you've become whole. And I kind of like that idea of it. So now we have the Page of Swords. This is the third sword card that we've had in here, which means a lot of what's going on right now is about communication. It's about understanding conflicts that are going on. And so the Page of Swords coming here, when we're looking at, how can we give and receive kindness and compassion, I think what this is really saying, it's an invitation to really pay attention to how you're communicating. What are you saying? Here's a way that you can start again, right? Try to go back. And if there's relationships where there's a lot of conflict, where there is a lot of upset, where there is a lot of insecurity, it's time to go back and look at the language, the communication, the body posture, right? Everything comes down to how are you engaging in communication? So, for instance, we're asking, how can we give and receive kindness and compassion? And the right is to love and be loved. So what are the contracts that we're having with other people? Are we in contracts where I will give this much and you have to give this much, but you have to give more, or I have to give more because my self-value means that I have to work harder to get the love and the attention that other people get? Are you looking to get into contracts where you're always lower than the other person, where people can say things to you and it's hurtful and you accept that, right? That's not accepting kindness. That's not accepting compassion. And so it's very important for us to really pay attention to the way that we're communicatively, yeah, getting into relationships with people and being able to be in places where we feel safe to say what it is that we need to say. I know that I've had a lot of really good, deep conversations with family members recently that I shared things that I've always been afraid to say because there's this story in my head that says if you tell them what you're really thinking, they're going to be upset with you and they're going to leave you and you're going to be all alone. And so it's very important to be able to, again, we're going to go back up the ladder. We're going to create a place of safety. We're going to leave behind the places and the people and the situations and the communications and the conversations and the conflicts that make us feel like we're threatened, that make us feel that we're unsafe, so that we can open up to our intuition, so that we can become more embodied and really feel what it is that we're feeling and we can feel the pleasure so that we're doing different things, doesn't matter what we're doing. It's just to make sure that we can understand that we're doing this and this feels good, or we're doing this and this doesn't feel so good, even if we have to do it, right? Like to find ways to have more of the this feels good experiences than this feels bad and creating those experiences for ourselves, allowing ourselves to let go of old identities, to let go of those old masks so that we can really grieve what needs to be grieved and rebuild our self-esteem and our self sense of value so that now when we get to the heart, now we're more aware of the way we're getting into conversations with people. We're going to be more authentic. We're going to be more transparent. We're going to be more direct with our boundaries, with defining the things that are important to us. And we're going to make sure that we're not compromising on the things that we've already built as we've been going up this ladder. Next, we move up to the throat, and this is the place of communication. So, this to me would be where all the swords come out. And so, how can we clearly communicate our truth? Because the throat chakra has the right to speak and to be heard. And I always feel that that be heard part is something that we overlook a lot. We all feel that we have the right to speak, but how often do we, one, either make sure that we're being heard clearly or that we actually reciprocate and allow others to speak so we can hear them? And so I always think of the conversation I had when I was teaching, where we talked a lot about communication, as far as like the language curriculum goes, and how there's so much emphasis based on what people say, and there's less emphasis based on, listening. And so active communication requires active speaking, but active listening as well. And so we're looking to see how can we clearly communicate our truth. And one of the ways that we can clearly communicate our truth is by sitting back and allowing people to mirror back to us what we've said so that we understand they're hearing our message. And that I think is a beautiful message for the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords is this, I always look at it as, I think I've said this before, but there's I think it was World War II maybe, where it was Christmas Day and both sides decided we're gonna stop fighting for the day and we're just gonna celebrate. We're just going to be people here. And when you allow that moment of pause, right? If you're in an argument, if you're in a dispute, if you're in a conversation, if you're in a negotiation of any kind, if there's no moments of pause built in, then it's important to make sure that you request pauses because we all need time to step back, clear our heads, and really, really look at what's going on, right? Like you can see this guy's still pretty angry, and the other guys are walking away. And so, when you're in this point, like, are you going to actually pause and allow that to settle? Are you going to like run up and stab these people in the back? Because a lot of times, the hardest part that we have to learn is our culpability in any kind of conflict. A lot of times, the conflict arises because both parties are refusing to take responsibility for what they're saying. They're also refusing to take responsibility for listening and trying to understand what the other person is saying. And so, here, when we get to the throat, the best way that we can clearly communicate our truth is that when we start to feel frustrated, when we start to feel like this guy, right? Instead of just giving up and walking away or, instigating more battles, we need to just pause and clear the air and say, hey, can you tell me what you think it is that I'm saying to you, or what it is that you hear me saying to you? And then I'm going to tell you what it is I hear you saying to me. And then we're going to take a break and we're going to sit on that and see where we actually are hearing each other and just are still in disagreement, or where there might be a bit of a misunderstanding. And that's really, really important, especially with all the stuff that's been built on. And I will add again, here we go. That is the fourth sword card that we've had out of here. The only thing that has not been a sword is the High Priestess. And the High Priestess, um, she's very lunar, so she's very water. But interestingly enough, we have like a lot of water imagery in this card. But what I will say is not only do we have a lot of swords, but if you look here, they're a bit out of order, but blue is also a very prevalent color in the first four cards. There's a lot more yellow in this one, but it's very interesting how even the color, there's a very, to me, when I look at it, the first four cards, there's a very emotional saturation to it. There's a lot there that's being held, that's being weighed down, that needs to be addressed and released. And this is almost like breaking dawn, right? Like when if we can clear all of this emotion, all of this grief of the first four cards, here's a moment where we get to choose what comes next, right? There's the possibility, is the sun rising or is the sun setting, right? And so you don't really know because we don't know in which direction the sun is in the sky. Then we're going to move up to the third eye, and this is the place of imagination. This is the place where all of the imagery that we have in our head is lives, right? Like, so this is very visual. This is the place of dreams and the place of absolute pure potential. And so how can we make time to play with our imagination? We've had a really heavy go so far, right? And if this is like a sunset or a sunrise, it's still the opportunity to change, to clear the slate. And so the third eye has the right to see and to perceive without being confined, without being conditioned, without being reined in, right? Without having all of those swords coming up and saying, "Hey, don't dream about this." And now we have the second major arcana card, which is interesting at how they've kind of come up here. And the best way that we can make time to play with our imagination is for us to be very clear in the boundaries that we set around our playtime. And I will say, even though, like there's this expectation in our society that once you reach a certain age, you're an adult and adults can't play, right? They're not allowed to play. Play is for children and play is forbidden when you're an adult. And if you play as an adult, you're irresponsible and immature and all this kind of stuff. I will be one of the first ones to tell you, I don't think I ever passed age 4, mentally development. I might have grown up and become an adult, but my brain a lot of times is still locked in that childhood place. I always love to, play with my imagination and I just like to play. Which is why I think I was a really good elementary school teacher because I I taught in the way that all I did was I played with the kids. Like we went, we played, we had a great time. And so I think it's important for us to be very clear that the brain needs time to play. The brain needs time to imagine. The brain needs to be able to get out of the rules and the regulations and the needs and all the weight of being an adult and just play. And so the emperor comes out and says, okay, you need to make clear boundaries and you need to really delineate where your playtime is going to be, how you're going to play, and what it is that play is going to be for you, because it will be different for everybody, right? Some people might say, oh, well, play for me is building puzzles. That's what my mother likes to do. She loves to build puzzles and she'll really enjoy taking time every day to build her puzzles. For me, it's a lot of different things. I love to build. I love to play video games. I love to play board games. And I like to create. Like for me, creating new things is fun. It's playful, it's enjoyment. And I think we also need to start looking at adding play more into our vocabulary, right? Like if you're going to work and you have a job that you really love, you can say, I'm going to go play today. I used to say that all the time. I'm off to go play with my kids. And just do that, right? Like we need to be able to really allow our bodies to feel like it's okay to have fun. Because if we can't embody this pleasure, this joy, this passion, this creativity, then our imagination is going to feel like him with all of that stone on him, right? Because what I like about this card is he's that stone emperor, right? That marble figure that you see when you go to the museum. But there's a real person that's breaking free from under there saying, no, I want to be free. Let me out. I want to run. I want to play. I want to go out and do things. And it goes back into all the things that we've been talking about, that it's important when you define your play, that it's your play, that it's what feels good for you and you're going to follow. And, we've been so disconnected and detached that it might actually take a while for us to understand what feels good and what feels like play. One of the things that I've realized recently is that play will always leave you feeling refreshed. You might be exhausted and tired, but it will still leave you with a sense of invigoration. And a good way to kind of put that as an example is there are people that like to play by exercising, and they will go and they will run marathons, and they'll be limping and having people have to carry them after they've run a marathon. But even though their body is so depleted, you can see on their faces how absolutely exhilarated they are from the experience. So these are the kinds of things that we want to be looking for to bring into our lives. And so sometimes it might just be sitting and imagining, wow, what could I do that would be so much fun that I would be so happy and so excited about? And it's one of those things where maybe your boundary is 5 minutes of just sitting and allowing your imagination to run rampant on anything that you want. And our final one takes us up to the crown, which is our connection. It's kind of the interface between the universe and the spirit that's in this body. And so we're looking at how can we cultivate inner peace and clarity? Because if we're not feeling safe, if we're not having fun, if we're not feeling good about ourselves, if we don't have genuine connections, and if we're not speaking clearly, and if we're definitely not seeing better opportunities for ourselves, then we're not clear and we're not at peace. And so by going through all of these steps that we've talked about, what we want to do now is how can we cultivate this inner peace and clarity? Because the crown chakra has the right to know and the right to learn. And so here we have the Two of Wands. And the Two of Wands to me is this idea of inspired partnership, where for the best way that we can cultivate inner peace and clarity at this point, because we're learning, right? We don't want to come back and repeat the old patterns. So what we need is we need inspired partnership. And because we're dealing with the crown chakra specifically, this inspired partnership is with the universe. It's with the cosmos. We need to be able to really tap into this high priestess energy and trust that if we ask the universe, what is my next step? How can I embody these lessons that I'm working on? What is the best way for me to properly grieve and release these identities? How can I create this safe and accepting space for me so I don't feel like I'm walking in a minefield or having to walk on eggshells? Ask these questions to the universe and see what shows up. Because the biggest thing with this inspired partnership is that we are not putting limits around what the answers are. And we are not answering the questions that we're asking. We're asking the questions and we're letting the universe provide the answers. And we will know which answers we want to ask more questions on based on how we feel when we get the answer. So, for instance, you ask the universe, what am I supposed to do next that's going to help me to be more connected to my passions? And then you walk away, and the next day you see an email, and the email is about a program or a video or whatever it is that you get in your inbox. And all of a sudden you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is really good." And so you follow that and you say, "Okay, what is this going to guide me to?" And you just keep doing that, and you don't answer the questions yourself. You just see what comes up, and then from there you allow what you feel to guide and keep the communication going that way. So one of the things that's important is that if you're following this little mini guidebook here on how to build the best pathway to alignment for you and for building your true a connection with your true self and your inner power, one of the things that we'll go over really quickly is that this 7 card spread had 4 swords. And that means that communication and conflict are really, really going to be important, because it's going to be really important that when conflict comes up, that you take that pause to be able to clear the conversation, to make sure everything's going on, that you're really looking at yourself and how you can better get into conversations with people, how you can really work with negotiation and conflict resolution and collaborative communication. You're paying attention to where you feel like you're walking on eggshells, and you're really looking at the places that you need to smoothly get away from, while you're also letting go of old identities and letting go of old masks so that what comes through is you. We also have one wand card, and that means that it's very important that where your passion is, where your energy is going, is in this conversation that you're having with whatever you believe to be bigger than you. And that you're asking these questions without attachments to the outcome and without answering them yourselves and then looking for that answer, right? So if you go, what's my next step? Well, I think I need to start a business. So then you're looking at everything business related. That's not what this is. This is about allowing the universe to speak to you in ways you could not even imagine. And then we also have 2 major arcana cards. We have the High Priestess and the Emperor. So the High Priestess is about trust your intuition, and the Emperor says make clear boundaries around what is yours and what people are not allowed to infringe upon. So with all of that, it's going to be very interesting to see the opportunities that come up, the way things kind of clear out. And remember, you have the right to be and to have. You have the right to feel and to experience pleasure. You have the right to act and define yourself. You have the right to love and be loved. You have the right to speak and to be heard. You have the right to see and perceive. And you have the right to know and to learn. And so I hope that you got some kind of clarity, that you got some kind of next step in this reading. And if you liked it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. There are new readings every week. And as I said, February is going to be all about using the chakra system in order to find alignment, to find direction, to find whatever it is that comes up over the month. I will see you again. Take care.